Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
And before we get into the tactical breakdown we have lined up today, I want to strongly encourage you to hit that subscribe button right now to Rugby Obsession. You really do not want to miss the kind of, high-level analysis we bring you every single week.
Oh, yeah. It is definitely the right time to subscribe, especially when we look at the sheer scale of the topic sitting on the table today.
Exactly. Because what happens when the most dominant team in modern rugby history, a team with like an absolute embarrassment of riches at almost every position, realizes that their entire World Cup dream might just rest on the shoulders of one 31-year-old man?
It's a crazy thought.
Right. So today, our mission is to examine the South African Springboks and their pursuit of a historic, unprecedented three-peat at the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Right now, they are sitting on top of the World Rugby rankings after their back-to-back 2023 victory.
Yeah, they are flying high.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
But to figure out exactly how they are planning to sustain this momentum, we are diving into some highly revealing insights from Springbok legend and former captain Jean de Villiers.
Such a great source.
Oh, absolutely. He recently sat down on the Rugby Pod with Jim Hamilton and Andy Good, and he really didn't hold back.
He really didn't. What stands out in his analysis is how meticulously he maps out the squad-building methodology of head coach Rassie Erasmus.
Yep.
De Villiers highlights how Erasmus has practically rewritten the textbook on managing player depth, and future-proofing a roster.
Yeah.
But alongside that praise, he points out a very specific, almost glaring vulnerability in the Springboks' armor. And, we are only 19 months away from the tournament.
Which is exactly why this matters to you listening right now. Whether you are, analyzing the game tape every weekend or you are just fascinated by how elite organizations manage talent, this deep dive is going to show you how even a reigning world champion balances an unparalleled depth chart with razor-thin margins of error.
Yeah, and to really understand that vulnerability, we have to start by looking at the foundation of their current dominance.
Okay, lay it out.
Well, you cannot grasp the danger until you see how carefully Erasmus has engineered the rest of the squad. De Villiers made a point that really frames this whole discussion.
What did he say?
He noted that if you asked him right now to write down the strongest Springbok starting 15, he could rattle it off without hesitation.
Sure. We probably all could.
Exactly. But he guarantees that the team taking the field for the 2027 World Cup final is going to look completely different.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I hear that, but it begs a major question. If you have a starting 15 that is currently dominating world rugby, why are you already planning to dismantle it? Like, are they expecting a wave of mass retirements?
It comes down to a very proactive, almost ruthless management of the aging curve. The core group of players who hoisted the Webb Ellis Cup 2.5 years ago are largely sitting in their early to mid-30s right now.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Rassie Erasmus knows the physical toll of test rugby. He knows he can't just keep rolling those exact same bodies out there, absorbing those massive collisions week after week, and simply cross his fingers that their hamstrings and shoulders hold together for 2027.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So instead of waiting for the cliff edge, he is actively bringing fringe youngsters into the fold right now.
Right, but how is that different from any other team bringing in young players? Everyone tests out new talent.
It's the timeline and the exposure. Right now, Erasmus is taking young players who might only have around 10 test caps and throwing them into highly pressurized environments.
Wow.
The calculus is that by giving them these crucial high-stakes minutes today, they won't be rookies by the time 2027 rolls around. They will be sitting at a very seasoned 20 to 25 caps.
I have to be honest, though. Doesn't that carry a massive inherent risk? How? Well, putting a 10-cap rookie into a hostile away match against, say, the All Blacks or Ireland seems like a great way to completely shatter a young player's confidence if they get steamrolled.
That's true.
If you throw them into the deep end too early and they cost you a game, recovering from that psychological blow is tough.
That is the traditional fear, absolutely. But what Erasmus does brilliantly is build a scaffolding of veterans around those young players.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't field an entire team of rookies. He drops one or two into a highly functioning veteran machine. And that 20 to 25 cap mark is highly specific in international rugby.
Why is that number so important?
Because by the time a player hits 25 caps, they have seen almost every tactical scenario. They have played in the rain in Cardiff. They have dealt with being 10 points down with 20 minutes to go, and they understand the sheer suffocating pace of test rugby.
Right.
Erasmus is essentially manufacturing battle-hardened veterans ahead of schedule, deliberately accelerating their development.
It's a fascinating approach. It actually makes me think of, like, a heavy-duty corporate succession plan, but far more aggressive.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Yeah, you have this legendary current executive who is still driving profits, but instead of waiting for them to retire and handing the keys to someone who's never driven the car, you put the junior executive in the driver's seat for the most difficult negotiations right now,
Yes.
while the veteran is still sitting in the passenger seat to grab the wheel if needed.
That's a great way to look at it. And because Erasmus has been so aggressive with this method, we are seeing the most visible, exciting results in the backline.
Yeah, the backs are electric right now.
When you proactively build depth, you eventually end up with a surplus of talent. And that leads us directly to the absolute wealth of options South Africa possesses at the fly half position.
The number 10 shirt. The playmaker.
Yeah.
From the source material, it sounds like de Villiers thinks they have practically opened a fly half factory in South Africa. Let's walk through who they actually have at their disposal.
It is genuinely an embarrassment of riches. De Villiers outlined the current landscape, starting with Sasha Feinberg Mogomezulu.
Okay.
He is essentially the current first choice 10. Now, de Villiers was honest. He noted that Sasha has had a slight dip in form recently.
Right, which happens to young players.
Exactly. But his raw talent, his ability to break the line, and his kicking game are undeniable. However, if he falters, they have Andre Pollard just waiting in the wings.
The ultimate safety net. You are talking about a guy with ice in his veins who has literally kicked the points to win 2 World Cup finals.
Yeah, he's incredible.
If you need someone to execute a game plan under the highest pressure imaginable, Pollard is the prototype.
Exactly. He gives you ultimate territorial control. But the rotation doesn't stop there. De Villiers was very explicit in highlighting Manny Libak as an outstanding alternative.
The buck is so fun to watch.
He really is. And this is a crucial technical detail from the interview. De Villiers stated point blank that no one runs the current attacking shape better than Libak.
Wow, no one.
No one. He praised his massive role in cutting up defenses. When South Africa wants to play flat to the line, put runners into gaps, and play a highly expansive game, Libak is the skeleton key.
That's quite the compliment.
And if those three aren't enough, you also have Damien Villemzy, who de Villiers called a massive threat, capable of stepping in seamlessly whether he lines up at 12 or 15, adding another playmaking dimension.
Okay, I want to push back on this because it sounds great on paper, but rugby is a game of combinations.
True.
If you have 4 wildly different options at fly half, you have the steady, tactical kicking of Pollard, the flat attacking spark of Libak, the versatility of Villemzy, the raw youth of Sasha. Doesn't having all that talent actually make it harder to build an attacking rhythm?
That's an interesting point.
Because if you are a center or a winger, you need to know instinctively how your fly half is going to pass, when they're going to kick, and how they drift. If the coaches are constantly chopping and changing the playmaker, doesn't the backline suffer from a lack of consistency?
It's a very sharp critique, and in traditional rugby doctrine, you are exactly right. Chopping and changing your number 10 is usually a recipe for a disjointed backline.
Right.
But what makes Erasmus's system work is that he isn't changing the fly half while keeping the same game plan. He selects the fly half based entirely on the specific tactical puzzle presented by the opponent.
Oh, I see. So the system changes to fit the player, not the other way around.
Precisely. If they're playing a gritty, wet-weather arm wrestle where territory and penalty kicks are everything, they start Pollard and play a structured game.
That makes perfect sense.
And if they analyze an opponent and see a weak defensive structure out wide that can be exploited with quick hands and crossfield kicks, they start Libak and change their entire attacking shape to fit him.
Wow.
They aren't just swapping a player, they are swapping their entire tactical identity on a week-to-week basis. It is the ultimate tactical luxury.
It is a nightmare for opposing coaches to prepare for, but an absolute dream for fans to watch. And speaking of the fans, I know everyone listening probably has a strong opinion on this.
Oh, absolutely.
So before we pivot to the sheer contrast of the Springbok forward pack, I want to ask you directly, drop your thoughts in the comments. With all these unbelievable options, Pollard's stability, Libak's attacking flair, Sacha's potential, who do you think should be the starting fly half for the Springboks in a must-win game?
That's a tough choice.
It really is. Let us know, and while you're down there, make sure you hit that subscribe button to Rugby Obsession. We love reading your takes on these tactical dilemmas.
I imagine the comment section is going to be just as fiercely debated as the Springbok coach's box right now.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But as much fun as it is to marvel at the luxury of having four world-class playmakers, de Villiers brings the conversation crashing back to a very stark reality.
He really does.
He points out that fundamentally the Springbok game is, and always has been, built around the forward pack. And that leads to a rather sudden, sobering realization about a single point of failure in this meticulously planned machine.
This was the real light bulb moment in de Villiers' analysis. After spending all this time talking up the unparalleled depth in the backline, he pivots to the forwards and states, point blank, if we lose Malcolm Marx, we're in trouble.
In trouble. That is a very heavy phrase coming from a former Springbok captain who knows exactly how duck this talent pool is.
It is. But when you look at the context of what Malcolm Marx actually does on a rugby pitch, you understand why de Villiers is sounding the alarm.
Yeah, explain that for us.
Well, Malcolm Marx isn't just a great player. He is a generational, irreplaceable powerhouse. I mean, he literally won the World Rugby Player of the Year in 2025.
Unbelievable achievement for a forward.
Exactly. What makes him so uniquely vital is the sheer physical load he is capable of carrying. De Villiers highlighted his massive minutes.
How massive are we talking?
In the brutal November Test matches against France and Ireland, Marx played a staggering 77 minutes and 73 minutes, respectively.
Hold on, we need to pause and explain the mechanics of that because that is not normal.
Not at all.
In the modern game, front row forwards, and especially hookers, are almost universally subbed off around the 50 or 60-minute mark. The physical trauma of packing down into a scrum, absorbing the combined weight of 16 massive men, and then getting up to make tackles is just too much.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Right. To play 77 minutes against a massive French pack is bordering on superhuman.
It is an absolute medical marvel. A hooker's job is arguably the most physically taxing on the field. They are in the middle of the front row, taking the brunt of the pressure in the scrums.
Yeah.
They have to hit their line-out throws with pinpoint accuracy while utterly exhausted. But what separates Marx is that he does all the heavy lifting of a tight forward, but around the park, he plays like an extra loose forward.
Oh, yeah.
He is constantly over the ball at the breakdown, scavenging and winning turnovers like a specialized flanker.
It completely changes the way I view their squad depth. To put this in perspective, think of the Springbok squad like a beautifully renovated mansion.
Okay, I'm following.
You can swap out the furniture and redecorate the rooms. That's rotating your fly halves and your backline. But Malcolm Marx is the central load-bearing pillar.
Yes.
If you remove him, the entire roof threatens to cave in. He is the load-bearing component of their entire physical game.
That is the perfect analogy. And the reality that Erasmus has to face is that this central pillar is currently 31 years old.
Which forces us to ask, why is an organization that is so obsessed with proactive depth and succession planning suddenly so utterly reliant on one man?
Right. It brings us to the hooker dilemma and the highly unconventional methods Erasmus is using to try and solve it.
Because the aging curve comes for everyone, even Springbok front rowers.
Exactly. The missing piece of the puzzle here is the veteran hooker, Bongi Mbonambi.
Oh yeah, Mbonambi.
For years, Mbonambi and Marx formed a devastating rotation, keeping each other fresh. But Mbonambi is now 35 years old, and he's being actively phased out of the system.
Really? How do we know that for sure?
Yeah. This was made very clear when he was entirely omitted from the first alignment camp of the year.
Wow. Just to clarify for the listeners, an alignment camp is essentially where the coaches gather the core players to lay out the tactical blueprint and physical expectations for the upcoming season.
Exactly.
If you aren't invited to the alignment camp, the writing is pretty much on the wall for your international career.
Spot on. So Mbonambi, stepping back, has launched an absolute scramble to find a reliable backup who can take the pressure off Marx.
Who are they looking at?
Throughout 2025, the Springboks constantly rotated different players through the number 16 shirt, the replacement hooker spot. They gave minutes to Johan Grabelaar, Marnus van der Merwe, and Jan Hendrik Wessels.
Okay, some solid names there.
They are, but they still haven't found a definitive answer, which led to the most fascinating and controversial experiment testing Marco van Staden at hooker.
No, wait a minute. Marco van Staden is a natural flanker.
Yes, he is. He is a loose forward whose primary job is tackling, carrying the ball, and fighting for turnovers at the breakdown.
I have to say, taking a flanker and throwing him into the middle of the front row sounds like pure desperation to me.
A lot of people feel that way.
I mean, hooking is a highly specialized, Incredibly dangerous position. You have 2,000 pounds of human beings pressing against your neck, and you have to balance on one leg to strike for the ball.
It's incredibly technical.
And you also have the immense pressure of throwing the ball straight into a lineout 5 meters from your own try line. How is taking a flanker and asking him to do that not just a sign of panic from a coaching staff that failed to develop a real backup?
It's a fair criticism, and a lot of traditionalists view it exactly the way you just described. But if we look at how Erasmus operates, he doesn't do panic, he does fearless innovation.
Okay, I like that perspective.
By trying Van Staden at hooker, Erasmus is asking a massive what-if question. What if we could have a player with the immense mobility, tackling dominance, and breakdown skills of a flanker who could also just hold up his end in the scrum?
Oh, that would be a game changer.
If you can successfully create a hybrid player like that, it completely changes the dynamic of your forward pack in the final 20 minutes of a tight test match. You essentially get a fourth loose forward on the pitch when the opposition is exhausted.
So you're saying it's not a patch for a leaky roof, but an attempt to build a completely new kind of roof.
Exactly. It is an incredibly positive, forward-thinking approach. They aren't afraid to experiment with wild concepts on the biggest stage, but despite the brilliance of the idea, the reality remains it is still an experiment.
Right.
And the only reason they have to conduct this experiment is because the gap left by an absent Malcolm Marx is just that enormous.
It really is wild to think about. You have this entire rugby ecosystem engineered to absolute perfection. They are mapping out player caps years in advance. They are cycling through world-class playmakers seamlessly based on tactical needs, and they have an alignment and vision that other nations envy.
Truly.
But at the end of the day, the brutal nature of the sport still forces you to reckon with the sheer physical uniqueness of one individual athlete.
That is the beautiful, terrifying unpredictability of team sports.
Yeah, it really is.
To summarize the insights we've pulled from De Villiers today, the Springboks are, without a doubt, a meticulously planned, well-oiled machine. They are on a direct collision course with a historic 2027 World Cup three-peat.
Absolutely.
The way they are proactively managing their squad depth, building experience in young players while honoring the tactical value of their veterans is unmatched in world rugby right now.
But the mansion still relies on that one load-bearing pillar.
Precisely. Their heavy reliance on Malcolm Marx remains the thrilling, high-stakes subplot of their entire campaign. He is the anchor that allows all that other brilliant tactical fluidity in the backline to exist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If the forwards don't provide a platform, it doesn't matter if you have Libbuck or Pollard at 10.
Which leaves us with a massive tactical question looking ahead to 2027.
It does, and it's a provocative thought I want to leave you, the listener, to ponder. If South Africa's own legends, like Jean de Villiers, are openly admitting on podcasts that losing Malcolm Marx equals trouble, you better believe that every opposing international coach from Dublin to Auckland is listening.
Oh, they are definitely taking notes.
How will those rival coaches scheme to neutralize, isolate, or physically exhaust Malcolm Marx over the next 19 months? They know he is the load-bearing pillar. The tactical war to dismantle the Springbok machine isn't going to start out wide. It is going to start right in the middle of the front row.
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on. The chessboard is officially set, and every opposing team is going to be staring right at the center of the Springbok pack, trying to figure out how to break the unbreakable man.
It's going to be a fascinating 19 months.
We will absolutely be keeping our eyes on how Rassie Erasmus reinforces that foundation as the countdown to 2027 continues. And on that note, we are wrapping up today's analysis.
Thanks for having me.
Remember to drop your starting fly half picks in the comments. Hit that subscribe button to join our community. And thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. And we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.